Hello friends, how's it going? If I played my cards right, you will be seeing this video on Sunday, March 19th, which is a very exciting day for a couple of different reasons. One, because that's the day that I'm going to participate in a Scarlet and Violet pre-release, but you'll see that video later. The real exciting thing is that this is the 20th anniversary of the release of Ruby and Sapphire in the United States. At first I was going to say that it's kind of hard to believe that it's been 20 years since Ruby and Sapphire came out, but then I think about all the things that have happened since then, and I guess it kind of makes sense. But anyway, these games are really important to me. They've been a part of my life for, well, 20 years, and Hoenn is one of my favorite regions of all time, and I wanted to commemorate the 20th anniversary by finally completing my National Pokedex in Emerald version. I actually started this National Pokedex journey in Emerald in like early 2006, but I never successfully completed it, mostly because of Johto Pokemon actually. So if you don't already know, when you complete the Hoenn Regional Pokedex in Emerald version, you get a choice between the 3 Johto starters, and I chose Chikorita as my Johto starter after completing the Hoenn Regional Dex, and then I got Cyndaquil from breeding the Typhlosion I got from an official 10th anniversary event, but that left Totodile, and I didn't know anybody who completed the Hoenn Dex and chose Totodile. Really, my friends weren't into completing Pokedexes. They were more about battling, and a lot of the time they were just hacking in Jirachis and things like that with their action replays, but regardless, I thought about completing the Mountain Battle Challenge in Pokemon XD to finally get a Totodile, because I actually didn't have Colosseum yet at the time. But I never got around to it because completing 100 battles sounded exhausting and I didn't feel motivated enough to do it. And so my 3rd generation National Pokedex project was put on hold indefinitely. Well, indefinitely until now. Now, I'm not doing this challenge lightly. I fully know what it's like to complete a National Pokedex. I completed the National Dex in Pearl just a couple years after it first came out, and I was immensely helped by the ability to trade with friends over the internet, and there's obviously no internet capabilities in Emerald, but I am blessed with owning every 3rd generation Pokemon game, 2 GBAs, a link cable, a couple of wireless adapters, and a GameCube to GBA link cable. I was able to get Ruby, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Emerald, and XD as they were coming out, and then I added Sapphire and Colosseum to my collection in the early 2010s or so. To my surprise, this is actually going to be easier than I thought. I was only missing 37 Pokemon in Emerald, and of course it was mostly those in the Johto Dex, but I already had a few of the pre-evolved forms, and I knew that I had some in other games, so I felt like I was gonna have an easy time doing this, but I knew that there were gonna be some that were gonna be hard to obtain. Because this journey started in 2006, I must continue it in the same way I attempted to tackle it originally, which is with a book. This book contains information about where to find every Pokemon in every 3rd gen game that was out at the time, a list of all attacks, and some battle strategies. It even has XD Gale of Darkness previews in the back. I used this exact book to help me complete the Hoenn Regional Pokedex, but only briefly used it to help me to continue through with the National Dex. But with all that intro out of the way, we're feeling good, and let's attempt to find our first missing Pokemon, which is Chansey. So the book tells me that I have to transfer it to Emerald from Fire Red or Leaf Green. Okay, no problem. I'm sure I caught one while I was spending time in the Safari Zone in those games. I guess not. Okay, which Safari Zone area is it in then? The book says, randomly encountered? Keep visiting until you find this Pokemon? Oh, come on, that's not helpful at all. Time to Google, I guess. With the power of the internet, I figured out which patch of grass I was supposed to be in, and I found a Chansey after a little while. I didn't want to gamble with rocks or bait, so I decided just to try to get lucky with Safari Balls alone, and that didn't work out. It takes a long time to find each Chansey, and I tallied 5 encounters before I decided to bring in reinforcements. Except as it turns out, my reinforcements had no money. A couple of Versus Seeker battles later, I was ready to tackle the Safari Zone with twice the encounters as before. And of course it happened on my regular non-backlit GBA, but I finally caught a Chansey after 11 encounters. Next up we have an easy one, Jolteon. Or so I thought it was an easy one. Apparently I don't have a Thunderstone in Emerald anymore, and I don't want to deal with that shard nonsense, so I just bought one from Celadon on Leaf Green, gave it to my Chansey, and traded it over. Then I could evolve the Eevee I already had saved in my boxes just for this occasion. Then after Jolteon comes Amistar. Ammonite is noted as a Pokemon I have in Emerald, but I could not for the life of me find it in my boxes. Did I just trade it over from Fire Red for the Pokédex entry at some point randomly? I'm just going to assume that and take this part over in Fire Red. I thought about trading my Ammonite over to Emerald to get that sweet EXP boost, but I decided against that because I can use the Versus Seeker by just walking a lot in Fire Red, and my Emerald's battery is dead, so I can't just wait for a new day to battle the same trainers again. Also, the trainers have higher level Pokemon than those in Sky Pillar or Victory Road. I was grinding levels for a while and had to recharge my SP's battery, and of course, Ammonite got to level 40 while I was mindlessly battling using my regular GBA. Oh well, Amistar obtained. Naturally, next up is Kabuto. So I remembered I chose Kabuto in Leaf Green because I chose Ammonite in Fire Red, so I traded it over to Emerald for the Pokédex entry before I started leveling it up to get it to evolve. After beating up the bikers outside of Celadon for a while, Kabuto evolved into Kabutops. And since Aerodactyl is next, I decided to trade one to Emerald real quick from Leaf Green when I traded Kabutops over. Now I really surprised myself with Snorlax. Originally I was thinking that I'd just trade over a Snorlax from Emerald or Leaf Green and be done with it, but apparently I didn't catch Snorlax in either game? Thinking about it more, I probably didn't catch them because I didn't care much at all about Pokédex completion for a long time. I was really starting to think that my Pokédex dreams were dashed already before I even got to the Johto section of the Pokédex. But then I remembered something. My guidebook does not include information from XD, and I remembered having a Shadow Snorlax at some point. As it turns out, I was right. It was even already purified, so I didn't have to do anything except for trade it over to Emerald. Just as easy as I had hoped. Next up we have Dragonair. I actually have a Dratini and a Dragonite on Emerald, but that's because I got a Dragonite from that official 10th anniversary event I talked about before, and then I bred it one time, so now I'm actually going to evolve a Dratini. I ended up trading Dratini to Fire Red so I could trade it using the Versus Seeker, and I'm really glad that Dratini evolves at level 30 instead of level 40 like the fossils do. And now we've arrived at the evolutionary line that caused me so much stress when I originally tried to complete the National Dex in Emerald. Thankfully, I have Pokemon Colosseum now, so I can just trade my Croconaw over to Emerald and breed to get Totodile, and then evolve that to get Feraligatr. This is kinda silly, but it's very surreal to see this Pokédex entry after it was such a roadblock to my Pokédex completion originally. Just look at Totodile, he's here! And then Feraligatr evolves at level 30, which is wonderful. Next up I need an Ariados, and I actually have a Spinarak in Emerald already, so I can just evolve it. But I wanted to point out that this guidebook is, again, super stupid about Safari Zone stuff. My Spinarak actually only needed to go up one level, so it was really easy to just fight a few Victory Road Pokemon and then evolve it into an Ariados. Next up is Cleffa, and apparently I or a friend traded a Clefairy to Emerald at some point and took it back, so I can't breed for a Cleffa there. So I'll just trade it from my Fire Red version. Next, Togepi is the same as Cleffa, so I just traded it from Fire Red. Next up is Togetic, and I was considering keeping Togepi in Emerald for a while and then evolving it with Friendship to get Togetic, but I decided to keep my Togepi unevolved. I don't know, I was feeling kind of nostalgic about the anime and how Togepi was unevolved for the majority of its time there. Whatever, I have another Togetic, it's in Colosseum, so let's get it from there. Next on the list is Skiploom. Now, I actually have a Hoppip in Emerald already. I'm pretty sure I traded one to all of my games once I got one in either Fire Red or Leaf Green, I don't remember which one. But I just really love Hoppip, and so I wanted it on all of my games. But anyway, let's just level this one up in Victory Road until it evolves. Then we can do the same for Jumpluff, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm really glad that Skiploom evolves at level 27 instead of 40. Now, Sunflora is one that I'm kind of annoyed about. I already have a Sunkern ready to evolve on Emerald, but I don't have another Sunstone. I used the one you get to evolve my Blossom. I hate that you only get one Sunstone in some of these games, but I still have one in Leaf Green, and so I just traded it over to use on my Sunkern. Quagsire is next, and I was really surprised I didn't already have one. I love Wooper and Quagsire, so I'm not sure what happened there, but I simply leveled up my Wooper to evolve it into a Quagsire. Next up is Mischievous, which you can't catch in Emerald, but you can catch it in Leaf Green in the Lost Caves item rooms most frequently, so I just traded one from there. Forretress is another easy one because I already had a Pineco, so I just leveled it up to evolve it. Next is Dunsparce, who I love very, very much. You can't catch it in Emerald, but you can catch it in Fire Red and Leaf Green, so I traded one from my Leaf Green. Now it's time for Granbull, and I already had a Snubbull, so all I had to do was level it up to evolve it. I love that Emerald Safari Zone Pokemon are often either above or right below the level they need to be to evolve. After Granbull, we've got Sneasel, and I just traded this from Leaf Green. Next is Ursaring, and Teddiursa is another Safari Zone Pokemon, so I only had to level it up once to evolve. Next we have Piloswine, and I guess I must have traded a Swinub to Emerald since you can't actually catch one in Emerald, but I did have one already, so I just leveled it up to level 33 to evolve it. Now it's time for Octillery, and you can catch Remoraid in the Safari Zone, so I just leveled it up once to evolve it into Octillery. Now Delibird finally makes this a little bit more interesting. I don't have a Delibird in Fire Red yet, and it's exclusive to Fire Red, so it's time to go back to Icefall Cave on 4 Island to try to find it. And as it turns out, I was looking in the wrong place for a long time, but I ended up in the right place, and after about 10 minutes I found my Delibird and caught it. Another Pokemon I didn't have at all yet is Mantine, and this is exclusive to Leaf Green, so I had to surf around the trainer tower to find one. It took quite a while to encounter in the first place, and then of course it didn't want to stay in a Pokeball, but I caught it eventually. Now back to an easy one for Houndoom. I already had a Houndour in my PC, so I simply leveled it up once to evolve it into Houndoom. Next up is Hitmontop, and I remember playing Emerald and feeling frustrated at trying to evolve my Tyrogue into a Hitmontop the first time I started working on the National Dex, so I was curious to see what was going on when I went to check it out. As it turns out, my Tyrogue was at level 19, so I leveled it up once just to see what would happen, and its attack point was 1 higher than its defense, so that was no good. But then I fed it a Kelpsie Berry and leveled it up again, and then it evolved into Hitmontop. This was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, and I wonder if I just got frustrated before because I forgot about EV decreasing berries. But in any case, I have my Hitmontop now. At this point in my journey, I have fewer than 10 Pokemon left to complete my National Pokedex in Emerald version, and I finally realized that I could use my DS Lite instead of my regular GBA when my GBA SP was charging. I felt really dumb about this. You only see the DS Lite a couple of times at the end here, so I'm sorry you had to deal with my GBA stuff, but I did have to use it anyway to trade, so whatever. What we're looking at here is Smoochum. I already had a Jinx in my party in Leaf Green, so I decided to breed it and then hatch my Smoochum. Next is Elekid, and I wasn't paying attention at all when this guy was about to hatch, so here he is. Our final baby Pokemon is Magby, and it was very easy to simply breed my Magmar in Leaf Green to get it. As I got closer to Blissy's Pokedex number, I was starting to dread having to evolve my Chansey. I've had it in my party while leveling up all the remaining Johto Pokemon I've been talking about. You might have seen it in a couple of clips. And just from that walking, Chansey was in the 100 to 149 happiness range. I leveled it up a couple of times, which is +3 friendship for each level at that point, but I decided that I should probably just walk with it a bunch to increase its happiness level. I kept track of the approximate amount of steps I took and used a calculator to tally up what I estimated to be Chansey's current happiness level. I was enjoying listening to the Adventure Zone while hanging out on Cycling Road, and then I hit 220 happiness points on my calculator. So I traveled back to Sky Pillar to level up Chansey one more time and hopefully have it evolve. And it did! I have a Blissey now! Thank goodness I counted happiness properly. Now it's finally time for that infamous final part of the Pokédex, starting with Lugia. I was unfortunately unable to visit a stop on the Pokemon Rocks America tour in 2005, so I never got to go to Naval Rock with the Mystic ticket in Emerald. However, I did purify Lugia in XD, so I was able to just trade it from there. Seeing Lugia on my Game Boy Advance SP is another surreal experience, more so than Totodile, I think. I read about the Mystic Ticket event on the official website over and over because I thought it sounded so cool, and I was really bummed that I'd never experienced the event. Having my purified Lugia from XD visit my Emerald cart is definitely a close second. I did spend a lot of time trying to do this, so it does feel really rewarding. Next, of course, is Ho-Oh. Because, again, I never got the Mystic Ticket, my only way to get Ho-Oh was in Pokemon Colosseum. Now, to receive a Ho-Oh, you must catch and purify every single Shadow Pokemon, and then defeat all 100 levels of Mount Battle in Battle Mode. I actually started this journey in 2018 when I was just really feeling like playing Colosseum, and I originally was going to make a video about just the journey to get Ho-Oh, but I kept forgetting to get footage because I was just so engrossed in playing the game, and then I didn't make a video at all, and I just have some pictures of the final moments, so whoops. But here Ho-Oh is in my Emerald version. I can't believe I'm seeing this. It looks so cool in sprite form. I just love Ho-Oh so much. But now, with Ho-Oh added to my Pokédex, I've filled pretty much every slot that was missing in my National Dex before restarting this project. As you probably noticed, I never talked about Mew or Celebi being a problem at all. That's because I got Mew at a Toys R Us event in 2006, this is the Mystery Mew, and then I got Celebi at the 10th anniversary event that I mentioned, that was also in 2006, which is the 10th anniversary OT Celebi. However, of course, there are two more mythical Pokemon I haven't talked about yet. Jirachi, and Deoxys. If you pre-ordered Pokemon Colosseum, you received this bonus disc that contains a trailer for the Jirachi Wishmaker movie,
Jirachi has the power to grant wishes,
a preview for Pokemon Colosseum. For some reason, you could only get this with the game, so I don't know why they're advertising to us, but whatever. And finally, the opportunity to download a Jirachi to your Ruby or Sapphire Game Boy Advance cart. I just love these fun blue 3D models of the hardware you need to get your Jirachi. And then, Jirachi is here! This really feels like a magical event. I love how the little sparkles move more quickly to become the star that Jirachi appears from, and I love this version of the Pokemon opening theme, and I love how 2003 it all feels. Truly a fitting end to my 3rd generation National Pokedex adventure. But wait, I'm still missing one Pokemon, aren't I? Unfortunately, my Pokedex count will never be the full 386 because of Deoxys. I was actually at the Pokemon World Championships in 2004 where they were distributing Aurora tickets as part of the Pokemon Rocks America tour that year, but the line was long and there were other exciting things I wanted to do there, so I never actually got an Aurora ticket. I even brought my Game Boy Advance and games, and I read about how to solve the Birth Island puzzles, so it's a real missed opportunity. But Deoxys aside, I don't need the full 386 to have my Pokemon be considered complete by the Game Freak people in the game, so let's just talk to the game designer in the Cove Lily Motel. And yes, there it is! It feels so incredible to see this certificate after so long. This Pokédex is representative of many hours of struggle and triumph spread across multiple games over the past 20 years. It's been truly incredible to see how it finally came together. While I eventually had all the games and accessories I needed to complete this Pokédex alone, a large amount of work was already complete with the help of my friends who I enjoyed playing the 3rd generation games with in the early 2000s. So even though we don't keep in touch anymore, I wanted to say a special thank you to Sophia, Mike, Wesley, and everybody else I hung out with in Hoenn. It was really nice to think about our adventures again as I went through my PC boxes and all of my 3rd generation games throughout this project. And thanks so much to you all for watching and dealing with the less than perfect video quality in this video. With the 20th anniversary of Ruby and Sapphire in mind, I hope it helped you go down memory lane a little bit to watch my Pokédex slowly become complete, original hardware and all. I know I completed this Pokédex in Emerald and not Ruby and Sapphire, but Emerald was the game that I started this journey in, and so I figured I would finish it there, but it's Hoenn, so I feel like it still counts for the anniversary. This video took a lot of time and effort, and I hope it shows through, or at least I hope it was a little bit entertaining. So thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll catch you all on the flip side.